Hello. Today we will be looking at our Chapter 1, Section 2 notes. This is a Google Classroom page, links to the textbook. We should know how to do this now. But if I click on links to the textbook, it will bring me to this page, a Google Doc with our whole textbook. And so we are still in Chapter 1, but we will now be moving to Section 2. So Chapter 1, I'll click the link. It will pull that up below it for me. And I'll double click that. And it will open our Chapter 1 textbook online. And we today are going to go to Section 2 of Chapter 1. So the first several pages are introduction. We had notes already on Chapter 1, Section 1. And so we will continue scrolling down to Chapter 1, Section 2. So Section 2 is on page 11 of our textbook. And Section 2 asks, who are U.S. citizens? So, as we go through the text, it says that Americans are from everywhere, that the United States is a nation of immigrants. With the exception of Native Americans, all of us can trace our family's roots to another country. So Chapter 1, Section 2, Chapter 1, Section 2 discusses how all Americans are immigrants, people who came here from other countries, or our family members were immigrants. And there are two main ideas of immigration to the United States. One is called the melting pot, and that says that people come from all over the world in different countries and come to the United States, and their old cultures, their ways of life from their other countries melt away, and we all end up looking like one American culture. But some people disagree with that and say that America is more like a salad bowl, that in a salad, foods do not melt together. The radish and the lettuce and the cheese stay separate parts, even though they're all one in a salad, that they are a mixture of separate and distinct flavors. So which image is correct? Actually, some combination of the two would be most accurate, says our textbook. That certainly many people, even if many generations ago immigrated to the United States from a different country, they can keep parts of their culture and heritage and language and religion, anything else from other countries. And then also people tend to adopt a shared American culture as well, no matter where their family background is from. So both are very true. Now, the textbook said that Native Americans or American Indians are the only peoples who can't trace their families back to another country. Now, that's true because Native Americans did not come from a different country, but Native Americans can trace their families back to a different continent. So the text then talks about the earliest Americans, and it talks about how Indians or Native Americans first came to North America from Asia between 12,000 and 40,000 years ago. So really, everyone is an immigrant to the United States, or what we today call the United States. Who were these immigrants? So for the first 40,000 years of settlement of this place, they were native peoples who traveled on foot from Asia. But in 1492, Columbus came to the United States and he sailed for the European country of Spain. And so Europeans then soon learn that America, both North and South America, possessed vast natural resources, meaning we had lots of land and lots of space and lots of lumber. Now, there were lots of Native Americans who lived here, and it was a bloody and brutal story that many of these Europeans killed the native peoples who lived here to take this land. But very quickly, the text says Spanish settlers spread across the Caribbean and Mexico and Central and South America and some parts of the United States, or what is today the United States, like Florida and Texas and California. But people from the British Isles settled the original 13 colonies of the United States. So what we know today is Maine and New York and Pennsylvania and Georgia. Those were mostly settled by people from England or from Britain. So we then, by 1775, those 13 colonies with mostly British immigrants fight a war for independence, and we become the United States. And we are our own country, but we still have many immigrants. So the United States attracted people from around the world. Europeans came by the tens of thousands, mainly to the east coast of the United States. And then by the mid 1800s, thousands of Chinese immigrants arrive on the west coast. So we have immigrants to the United States once we become a country from all over the world, but especially from Europe in the early part of our country's history, and especially to the East Coast. We then, as a country, started passing laws about immigration. In 1882, the United States Congress passed the Chinese Exclusion Act, basically saying China could not send or have any more immigrants come to the United States. Then in the 1920s, Congress passed a quota. A quota, this word, simply means a specific number that limits how many people can come to this country. So if you had a quota that only 500 people from Norway could come to the United States every year, you would have a quota about immigration from Norway. Currently, the US law is really controlled by the Immigration Act of 1990. So we have a quota of 675,000 immigrants who can come to the United States legally every year, and who can come to the United States. So the law gives preference to three groups of people: husbands, wives, and children of US citizens, people who have valuable job skills, and aliens. And so we also want to focus on that word, alien. What does an alien mean? An alien is a permanent resident of the United States who is still a citizen of another country. So if I was born in France, but I moved to the United States legally and was living in the United States for many years, but still was a French citizen, I had a passport from France, then I would be an alien resident of the United States with French citizenship. So how do you get to be a United States citizen? Well, there are several ways. You can citizenship by birth. If you are native born, if you were born in the United States, you are a US citizen. Roughly almost 90%, the textbook says 87.5% of Americans are native born. That means about 12.5% of US citizens were foreign born. They were born in a different country, came to the United States, and have acquired US citizenship. How can you get citizenship in the US if you weren't born here? That is called citizenship by naturalization. Naturalization is a fancy word for the process by which an alien may become a citizen. Naturalized citizens have the exact same rights and duties as native-born citizens. So in 2009, several years ago, there were about 21.7 million legal aliens living in the United States. There are also illegal immigrants, sometimes called illegal aliens, and also usually called undocumented residents because they don't have documents that show that they live in the United States legally. The text says no one knows exactly how many undocumented residents live here in the US, but many people think the number could be as high as 8 million. And life for undocumented residents in the United States is often very difficult. If they are treated poorly by their boss at their job, they usually feel like they can't go and complain to the law, to the legal authorities, or to the police because they fear that since they are not in this country legally, that they could be deported or sent away from the US or get in other legal trouble. The last term that Chapter 1, Section 2 mentions is refugees. So a refugee is someone who is trying to escape danger in their home country and they flee to another country. So if there was a revolution in a country and there was much bloodshed and your ethnic group or religious group was being targeted and killed in large numbers, maybe you would try to flee that country as fast as you can, and maybe you come to the United States and you would be called a refugee. So that is another type of person who lives in the United States, who has a different legal status than a citizen or a resident alien. So that concludes our Chapter 1, Section 2 notes. You should go back and read that section of Chapter 1. It begins here on page 11, and it ends here as I scroll back through on page 16. So only 5 pages, very short. Read that, and of course, come prepared to discuss or ask questions. Thanks for paying attention.